Hello, it's Yasin Valimulla, the CEO and founder at The Luxury Address. We're a boutique agency that specializes in branded residences and beachfront communities. And today I'm going to be answering the top 10 most commonly asked questions on my social media from other agents. Okay, so let's dive straight in. So question number one, what advice would I give to new agents? It's not an easy question to answer. Obviously, there's a lot of agents in the market, not only in Dubai, but in general. It's been a trend now, real estate, especially in the last few years, because of certain TV shows, for example. But in terms of advice for newer agents, I think the first thing, which is the key, is patience. This is definitely not a sprint, it's a marathon. So you need to be playing the long game. So what I mean by that is, deals may not happen in the first 2, 3, 4, 5 months. It could take longer, but you do need to be playing the long game. You need to be patient and the deals will happen. If you have a structure and you follow it, you're consistent, you're disciplined. These two qualities are really, really key. Consistent in the sense, whatever you are doing in terms of strategy, you're consistent with it. And at the same time, you're disciplined as well in terms of what your structure is. I think a lot of the time, agents tend to lose faith when things don't quite go right for them. But like I said, if you're consistent, you're disciplined and you have patience, and you put a lot of emphasis on building relationship with clients, it's not necessarily about just doing the deals. It's to build relationships. This business is a long-term business. It's not something where you can get in, make some money and exit. It can happen, but this is not what I would advise. This is a career, and for a career, you need to build it as a career, which means it's got to have a long-term vision attached to it. And to do that, relationships are absolutely key. Relationships with clients, and not only with clients, in fact, you can also be with other colleagues, other professionals, other agencies, agents, developers, brokers. So for me, that would be the advice I would definitely give to the newer brokers in the market. Question number two would be the struggles in Dubai real estate. Now, I don't think this is specific to Dubai. I think this can be emphasized for other cities around the world as well, especially a buoyant city like Dubai. But I think, again, something I touched upon earlier was, as an agent, you need to make sure you see this as a career, and it's definitely a marathon and not a sprint, and to have patience. One thing you're always going to find when you start any new industry is getting clients, and real estate is no different. Getting clients in the beginning can be difficult. And I always say to my agents, the agents that I coach and mentor as well, that you should put an emphasis initially into leveraging your sphere of influence. Sphere of influence being people that you know, people that you socialize with, friends of friends as well, because initially it's going to be that sphere of influence that's going to get your initial clients. So you really need to make sure you leverage that, because that is a challenge when you first start. Also in Dubai real estate, specifically, I would say there's a lot of real estate agents as well. But you need to stand out. There's a lot of real estate, but I'd say there's a lot of bad real estate agents in Dubai as well. So if you're knowledgeable, you're creating relationships with the clients as well, you can overcome the fact that there are a lot of agents here in Dubai, but if you are pitching yourself above them in terms of knowledge, in terms of the value that you're giving to your clients, then of course the clients will definitely see that as well. The other things I would say is in Dubai, there are a lot of different nationalities of clients. You're talking over 180. Every client that you meet do business in a different way. This can be extremely challenging when you first start in the industry. How a specific client will negotiate will be very different to how another client will negotiate. And a lot of that comes down to culture, also, where they come from, nationality and so forth. So you just need to be making sure that when you are starting in the industry, that you start with a clean slate and you try and value every customer, client as an individual. What you really need to emphasize is learning to multitask. And the way you would do that ideally as well is trying to maybe even get a mentor for yourself, do some coaching. I think that really, really helps when you're first new into the industry, because rather than spending 10 years trying to figure it out, if you have a mentor or a coach who can teach you within the first 3 to 6 months, there's a lot of things you will overcome, the challenges specifically, if you have that in place from the offset. Question number 3 I get asked quite often is, how do we break into the luxury market in Dubai? Now, one thing I would definitely say is, I think in Dubai, there are too many agents classing themselves as luxury agents. They've been in the industry 2 weeks. They go to a developer's office who has a luxury development, they start advertising it, and they class themselves as luxury agents. Just because you have that title on your Instagram page, on your business card, doesn't necessarily mean you are a luxury agent, in my opinion. And breaking into the luxury market is not easy. I think for any agent who wants to work at the high end, the top end of the market, first thing they need to do is learn to sell the low to mid ticket properties first. Learn to understand how clients work. And once you've mastered selling properties in the low to mid tier markets, then you need to immerse yourself into the luxury market by firstly socializing in areas where luxury buyers and sellers are going to be. You need to understand also what luxury means to clients. Now, what one client might classify as luxury might be very, very different what another client might classify as luxury as well, because luxury isn't really just a pricing point. I think many agents specifically make the mistake of thinking the pricing point dictates if it's a luxury property or project. Now, it can be, depending on the pricing point, but it doesn't necessarily mean that luxury will be the same or synonymous to all the clientele. So I think you need to craft a niche for yourself, find out what luxury you want to specialize in, then immerse yourself with these clients in terms of where they socialize, where you're going to come in contact with them, going to events, collaborating with partners that have luxury services, be it private aviation, private watches, private yachts. These type of industries, wealth management as well, where this level of clientele would be working hand in glove with. And if you then collaborate with these type of partners, you can slowly then enter the luxury market. The luxury market is different. You know, in terms of volume of transactions, they're going to be much, much lower than if you're selling low to mid ticket as well. So like I said, you know, if you want to break into luxury, it's definitely possible. Master the low to mid ticket first. Understand how clientels work. Immerse yourself into their lifestyle. Collaborate with partners, and hopefully that will help when you're trying to break into the luxury sector. Question number 4: what were my personal inspirations to get into real estate? So I lived in Spain in 2002 and 2003 as an Erasmus student studying Spanish with international business. At that time, when I was based in Malaga, which is in the south of Spain, I used to frequently visit Marbella. Now, Marbella, again, south of Spain, has a rich cultural history as well, has a very, very interesting and exciting property market. And I think the interest was fused when I used to visit Marbella, went to some incredible properties there. And I think that's where it sparked the interest of doing real estate. When I graduated from university and I moved to Manchester, which is a city in the northwest of England, I started working for a real estate agency back in the UK, a brokerage, what you would call it here. And I worked there for a number of years. I was originally selling low ticket investment properties, terrace houses for investors who used to buy and convert them into student lets. And then as time progressed, I kind of got more into investors, off plan. And there's a couple of other things that I was doing in the UK. I had my own agency for 2.5 years. And when the market in the UK turned, or globally turned in 2009, I decided to move to Dubai. I had a couple of friends out here doing Dubai real estate. I had been to Dubai in 2006 on the way to my sister's wedding. And I decided to move out here in 2009 and test the real estate market here. And because the Dubai real estate market is very similar to the US market, it's a commission-only industry. It's very entrepreneurial in that sense, very, very different to how the UK works. And I'd already had my own business before I came out here. I moved out here in 2009. I started specializing on the Palm Jumeirah. In those days, there wasn't many communities. Palm Jumeirah was the only community I wanted to work in. Fast forward nearly 15 years, I've become a specialist in that community. I've become a specialist in beachfront communities specifically, and now more so the branded residences. And now I have my own agency. But like I said, the inspiration did come from me living in Spain, looking at the property market there. Of course, Marbella is still a very, very buoyant and thriving property market. And it's a market that we will be working with. So Marbella is something we will be having a partnership with as well. We're probably going to be opening an office there very soon. So it's not something that was just an inspiration. I want to continue that inspiration by hoping I can actually open an office there and sell property in Marbella to clients in the GCC. as it is a very popular destination now as well. Question number 5. Again, get asked this quite a lot. What's the most expensive property you have sold? I've sold a multitude of properties at a high ticket price bracket, especially to, clientele from the celebrity world, sports people and so forth. Being a specialist in beachfront communities, especially Palm Jumeirah and the villa community there, I have come across a lot of clientele. But when it comes to the most expensive property I sold, it was a penthouse that I sold at Palm, which is managed by Dorchester. So that's one at Palm Jumeirah, a development built by the luxury developer Omniat, and I sold a penthouse there a couple of years ago at 56 million dirhams. It was a very, very large penthouse, had a very nice terrace, some incredible views, and the client that actually purchased that property purchased it as something to renovate and actually resell. So I believe he is still under the process of renovating to an extremely high standard, and he'll probably sell the apartment, just because the market in that 2 years that since he bought it has continued rising as well. But yeah, that would be my most expensive property that I've sold here in Dubai. Question number 6, ethics and principles in real estate. Again, this is more of a varied question. I think it's very important now that you have transparency with your clients, you're honest with your clients as well. A lot of real estate agents get a very bad reputation because they seem to be more interested in selling a property that makes them the commission, or a large portion of a commission, rather than working what's in the best interest of the client. So I think it's very, very key that you do work for your client. You'd rather have a relationship with the client and do multiple deals than try and do one deal where you're potentially making a large commission, but then that relation could be sour because you're not actually looking for the best interest of your client. So like I said, I'm very, very key on that. I mentioned that to a lot of my agents as well. I mentioned that with my clients that I do coaching and mentoring as well, the whole element of being honest, truthful, and transparent as well. Question number 7, client success stories. Now, I could probably write a book in terms of the amount of success stories I've had in the nearly 15 years of doing real estate here in Dubai. I think one of the ones that really stand out was actually quite a recent one, which happened just over a year ago. So this was a client of mine who had purchased a property with me when I was working for Knight Frank as a partner there, and I sold the property to him in the Royal Atlantis, or Atlantis Royal, which is what it's called now, project. So this was the first super prime project in Dubai, I would say. Since then, a lot of other projects have followed. The client bought a very nice 4-bedroom on a very high floor. The price at the time was 21 million dirhams. And the payment plan that he at that time got was a 40-60 payment plan, which meant he was going to pay 40% until handover, and the 60% would be paid on handover. Now, when he bought the property, it was before the prices in Dubai had started going up. He bought it for 21 million. He'd only put it around 9 million with his fees, 40% plus his Dubai Land Department fees. Last year, 3 months before the handover of the property, we sat down and we discussed what was the best way of moving forward. Do we transfer on the property and then he would live there? It was only going to be a weekend home for the client anyway. It wasn't going to be his full-time residence. Or would he sell at a good return on equity, which is something that I had originally advised him when we bought the property. Keep in mind, there's a difference between return on equity and return on investment. So this is purely a return on equity example I'm giving here. So the client then decided to take my advice. I said to the client, okay, let's put it on the market. Let's test the property on the market at around 38 million. And if we get anything around 36, 37, we should sell. And then keep in mind that because he'd only put down 9 million at this stage, if he was to sell at those prices, his return on equity was nearly 200% on his 9 million. So this is an equity return we're talking about. It's about 185% was the return. And that was in 2.5 years. We ended up selling the property within a month. We sold it for 36.5 million. He made a return on, like I said, of nearly 200%, which I was very happy about. The client was very, very happy. And then that money was then reinvested in a different project. So like I said, I have a lot of success stories. I think this is one I wanted to mention specifically because it is a very, very recent one. And the property only sold and transferred last August. So again, not even a year actually since we transacted on that one. So that's definitely one of the ones that stands out. Question number 8, exclusive listings versus standard listings. Historically in Dubai, sellers have always given their properties to a multitude of agents. And the reality of it is, if you are selling, especially if you're selling prime properties, super prime properties, it's always my advice, and the numbers speak for themselves in terms of transactions that happen when an agent has a property exclusive, wherein he's the only agent who advertises it, markets it. He goes out into the market. He will discuss and advertise it within his own networks of clients, as well as the agents as well. I think the misconception sometimes with owners can be, well, if it's exclusive, only that agent can sell it. Yes, only that agent can sell the property, but he can work with a multitude of agents. Albeit, it could be agents based here in Dubai, or it could be global agents as well. When you have that one point of contact, that one control element of one agent handling the property, what that means is when it comes to prices that are dictated into the market, you have a uniform pricing point. When you have multiple agents at multiple pricing points, just because maybe one agent has an offer on it and the seller has now come down from the original asking price, he will then go into market with a different price. And then what tends to happen is the price kind of gets muddied. And then, as a client, they would rather deal, especially in the prime and super prime sectors, they would rather deal with properties that is handled by one agency and one agent, as opposed to with multitude of agents. So I really think sellers should understand and want to work with that one agent that's going to be able to sell that property. Keep in mind as well, when you're selling a property exclusive, it's not just the agency the agent works for, it's also the agent themselves. Agents themselves are their own brand. They are their own marketing tool now. So it's trying to find that one agent that has a good company behind him. He himself is his own brand, and he's going to be the person who's going to go out into the market and ensure a transaction can be done at the right price for the buyer and for the seller as well. Question number 9 is the importance of marketing in real estate. Historically, globally, marketing was very, very different. When I first started, there was ads in newspapers. Things have drastically changed in the last 5 to 10 years. And I think now it's become extremely competitive, the space. I think as an agency, as an agent, you really need to stand out. As a company, you need to have a marketing strategy, albeit, pictures, videos, reels, a lot of content that you need to create, which is away from just what the general agencies are doing, especially if you have a property that is exclusive, where you can collaborate with other partners in the property. You can do very, very thoughtful open houses for brokers, also for clients as well. Again, where you can collaborate with other partners. But what's really key is that all of this is great, but unless you've got that social element of it where you are actually putting the content out there, people won't know. I mean, websites are great, but I think it's now the social element of how things are done. So I think agencies and agents have to be very, very mindful of marketing on a social level, but in the correct way as well. I mean, I see, especially in Dubai now, a lot of agents all branding themselves, which is great because you want to be your own brand. Massively key to success in real estate. But at the same time, what you tend to see a lot of agents, when it comes to coming up with ideas of how they should market a property, there's a lot of copy, cut and paste, and there's not much imagination that goes into it. I mean, you walking around a property telling people what's a bathroom, what's a kitchen, doesn't really give clients the value. You're kind of just stating the obvious, not in so many terms. So my personal suggestion is getting ideas, having content creators, marketeers that come up with ideas that are new, that are fresh, that's going to get the most eyeballs on the property. Obviously, these are properties that the client wants you to advertise and market. Of course, you're going to get clients who don't want that. They want to have a private listing, pocket listing, as they call it in the UK. That's entirely different. But when it is a property that you've got listed, I think you need to have an ecosystem built for every listing where you go through 10 to 20. So as a company at the Luxury Address, we have a 10-point marketing system that we go through. Again, the marketing system Purely depends on the type of property, if it's a mansion, if it's a large villa, is it a small apartment, is it a penthouse, is it exclusive, is it not exclusive? So everything is dependent on a multitude of factors. But the reality, but by the end of the day, you do need to ensure that you have a marketing plan in place. Not only as an agency, but as an agent, as an individual, you should also have your own marketing plan. So how you're going to get these properties out there, and not only about the properties, but also marketing yourself as well. Because you are your brand, you need to be going out there into the market. People need to know who you are, and you want to be doing it in the right way. You want to be doing it in a way that you don't come across as someone who's just copy, cut and pasting, original with your ideas. And the key point being the value that you give from the content that you create. Question number 10, again, a question that gets asked a lot, especially with Dubai being such a heavily dominated off-plan market. So the question is, off-plan versus secondary, which one should an agent be doing and why? Personally, the way I see it, Dubai is always going to have a very strong off-plan market. Currently, there's more off-plan transactions than secondary transactions. I think if you want to be an agent that has a full ecosystem, I think it's very important you do learn how to do secondary properties. Secondary properties are properties that are already built, where you have to go and meet sellers, where you need to give them a value proposition, tell them why they should be using you, get an agreement signed with them, you do pictures, you do videos, you do content, you do the full 360, you do viewings, you have offers, you negotiate. It's a very, very long process when it comes to the secondary market. And I see a lot of agents in Dubai, they tend to shy away from the secondary. They find the whole process a little bit long-winded, they find it difficult, and they only focus on off-plan. Now, there's nothing wrong with being an off-plan specialist, but if the off-plan market was to slow down in the next 2 to 3 years, there's a possibility that could happen. Then it becomes very difficult if you don't know how to do secondary. For me, as an agent, you should be able to do both. You have the basic knowledge, you know how to do secondary, you know how to speak to clients and sellers and buyers on the secondary side, and at the same time you also focus on a certain segment of off-plan as well. So what I mean by that is off-plan has a lot of different segments, a lot of different communities, areas, pricing points. If you were a full-time agent who only does off-plan, then it's perfectly fine to work in different pricing points, different segments, different developers. Whereas if you're an agent that does do secondary property but also wants to do off-plan, in that scenario, you want to pick and choose certain developers and certain communities that you want to work in. So for me, for example, I'm traditionally a secondary agent. I tend to deal with sellers and buyers on properties that are already built. At the same time, I do work in off-plan projects, but it's very specific projects that I work on. So the ones I specifically specialize in are branded residences, which is a big boom now in Dubai. There's a lot of branded residences projects being launched. Soon it's going to be the #1 city in the world for branded residences, overtaking Miami. So that's one speciality of off-plan that I deal with. And then the second one is beachfront communities, which is something I've heavily invested my time in since being here. So there's no right or wrong answer. I think if you want to be a full 360 ecosystem agent, I think it's best to do both. If you want to do just one, that's perfectly fine. Just understand as well, the clientele tend to be different as well. A lot more investor driven on off-plan, although that is changing now with a lot more end users buying off-plan projects here in Dubai as well. And of course, you need to find as an agent your niche. Some agents just generally prefer to work with developers working in off-plan. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If that's what you aspire to, if that's where you gravitate to, then that's perfectly fine. So you need to go what works for you, what kind of clients you want to deal with, and of course, keep that long-term vision in mind as well. So there you go, there you have it. That are the top 10 questions I get asked most by my Instagram social media followers. If you have any comments, feel free to comment below. If there's any other content you would like, definitely drop me a message. All our content details are on our YouTube channel. Definitely subscribe, definitely share our videos as well. And we will be creating more content for agents soon.